Welcome to The Edge of Show, your gateway to the Web3 revolution. We explore the cutting edge of blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, ordinals, DeFi, gaming, and entertainment, plus how AI is reshaping our digital future. Join us as we bring you visionaries and disruptors pushing boundaries in this digital renaissance. This show is for the dreamers, disruptors, and doers that are pumped about where innovation meets culture. This is where the future begins.
We're expanding across new frontiers, streaming on Zora and Rumble. On Zora, creativity lives on-chain where every post, drop, and idea can evolve into something of real value. Explore what we're building on Zora at zora.co. And on Rumble, you'll find the space where creators connect freely and conversations grow without limits. Catch our episodes and join the discussion on Rumble at rumble.com. Just hit either platform and search The Edge of Show to find us. Two communities, one mission building the future together.
Hello and welcome again to The Edge of Show. I'm Josh Krieger, your co-host. We're live at Creative Blockchain Week, and I have the pleasure of speaking with Fahmi Syed, the president of Midnight Foundation. It's great to have you on the show. For those that don't know, Midnight is a zero-knowledge powered blockchain initiative focused on privacy, governance, and fairer digital systems. As a qualified chartered accountant and treasurer, Fahmi brings decades of experience in structured finance, as well as strategy and executive leadership, with past roles including the CFO at Parity Technologies and the CFO of Midnight under Input Output. So he's been instrumental in shaping the token economics and probably a lot of other fun things along the way. So with that said, Fahmi, I guess, you've held a number of different leadership roles in finance and major blockchain organizations. What drew you into the space originally, and how has that sort of shaped your approach to Midnight?
Yeah, great question. And you make me sound ancient when you say I've got decades of experience. But no, listen, it's been a journey to get here. Back in 2021, 22, I was at a hedge fund called Fifth Delta, which I helped launch from scratch during the pandemic. I'd already spent 17 years at a very large hedge fund, which started small, grew up. So I've been used to scaling businesses. And for me, I've always enjoyed building, innovating. And I was approached by Parity, Gavin Wood and the builders of Polkadot. And I was interested in what they were doing, by the challenge, but also how that technology could change how finance worked, how corporations worked, how data was shared, how even the fabric of society could evolve. And for me, for somebody who, as you said, had decades of experience, is about what was the next evolution? What was the place I could go to learn, to help shape that? And it's an interesting position where you've got new technology armed with, the challenge of regulation. And how do you shape strategy of business to take that forward?
Makes sense. And so fast forward to Midnight.
Yeah, so I was at Polkadot for 18 months. I learned huge amounts with Gavin and the sort of wonderful engineering talent there. Met with Charles, who told me about the Midnight project, what he was trying to do, how he, as a student, an investor in blockchain, has seen the evolution from Bitcoin in the early days, co-founder of Ethereum with Gavin, and then evolving into Cardano. And he's Bitcoin gave you the promise of freedom, the removal of intermediation, the removal of borders, barriers, censorship. And Ethereum introduced programmability, and then Cardano, Polkadot, Solana, and others, that third generation introduced scalability, interoperability. But we still haven't seen real world adoption. No large corporation is using blockchain technology like they use cloud servers and cloud technology.
They're dabbling,
but more around to the edges.
Yeah.
Nobody's making payments using stablecoins or salaries through any blockchain. And the reason for that is, Charles had identified, was privacy and identity. These are core to enabling data solutions, corporations, individuals to come and adopt blockchain in a way that it becomes just part of fabric, part of the everyday life.
Yeah, totally. Fun fact, I'm not sure if you're familiar that Aramco in Saudi Arabia, their employee reward system is powered by blockchain.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So,
is that a private blockchain or a public blockchain?
I guess it's semi-private. To my knowledge, it was built by an individual team out there. But I think what's really interesting is you can convert those points to redeem for GATs,
right,
or for all sorts of rewards. But I think that's a great use case. But it's just, I mean, every company could be doing that, right?
Every company could be doing that. Again, we've seen the evolution of blockchains where large corporations are looking at blockchain, but often building private blockchains. And that's kind of the opposite of what blockchains do. Blockchains are decentralized networks, which allow the lack of silos of data. And blockchains are truth engines. They remove uncertainty around.
So they're trying to make these like this public blockchain.
Midnight is a permissionless public blockchain, but it is enabling privacy solutions. So you could get to a place in finance and DeFi. We speak a lot stablecoins where you can have a publicly issued stablecoin, but you allow it to be held privately. So it's privacy by default, but disclosure by choice. A smart contract language that sits on top of the ledger enables disclosures, whether that's presentation of proof with a counterpart or making public disclosures on the blockchain itself.
So I guess the thesis behind it is you don't need fully private blockchains. You need privacy permissions within public blockchains.
Correct. Yeah. When you have private blockchains, you end up with silos of data, silos of information.
Do you feel like governments would be comfortable, for example, using Midnight, in its current form? Or is there any use case for private blockchains?
Yeah, so one of the 4 verticals that we're focused on is GovTech. Yeah. So we are speaking to not only Web3 developers, but large corporations, but also governments around ID solutions. If you think about Korea, we're here at Korea Blockchain Week. Korea has a national ID. Korea is also very well known for both innovation and education. And if you think about the national ID, it sits on a different database to your educational history, to your university qualifications. Within Midnight, you can bring those things together because it's a permissionless blockchain, a public blockchain. So it enables private silos of data to be shared in a way that information isn't disclosed to everybody. And at the same time, you can then make disclosures between those different private silos in a way that's compliant and works for the information sharing that you require. So there's no reason why governments couldn't be comfortable with it because of that disclosure enabling smart contract technology.
What's the sort of most advanced use case of Midnight so far that sort of inspires you, keeps you excited about what's to come? What have you guys deploy at this point?
Where do I start? Look, every day I meet different partners, different builders, and I can think of hundreds of thousands.
Maybe just a couple use cases and sort of touch on these examples of organizations that care about privacy and are comfortable with a public.
Yeah. So we're working and focus across 4 verticals at the moment. There are many verticals that Midnight can work on, but 4 verticals that we're focused on are finance, healthcare, GovTech, as I've already mentioned, and AI. So let's take healthcare. So we have a couple of examples in our testnet as we approach mainnet, where we've got a healthcare company in Turkey with 3 million patients, where they can expose proof of the patient's clinical records on our chain and share that with other parts of their clinical sort of fraternity. But then you get to a place where that information, that proof, can be potentially presented for clinical research, clinical trials to external companies. So that allows that to be monetized. By monetizing, it's a new revenue for the clinic. They may result in reducing insurance premiums for their patients. Low insurance premiums makes them more attractive than their competitors. And you get this nice virtual cycle of more data, more clinical sort of research. That's one example. In that same space, we're talking to a large children's hospital in California who want to be involved in clinical trials with other external hospitals and clinics. And how do you present client-patient data in a way that's compliant? Because clearly there's confidentiality and regulatory rules around that in the US. And therefore, if you can get to a place where Midnight can provide proof and sharing of that information in a way that's compliant but doesn't expose underlying client data or information, and that leads to a better world of sort of clinical trials, drug development becomes faster, quicker, and we all benefit from that. So that's the healthcare. I'm a finance guy, as you mentioned, decades in the industry. For me, the whole thing about RWA and tokenization, which is very thematic, very on trend at the moment, especially with stablecoins, it's about democratization, yes, maybe. It's about fractionalization and making access more available, yes. For me, the true unlock is collateralization. Can I provide proof on my different sources of collateral and assets without exposing what they actually are? So nobody has the full details of my live trading portfolio without exposing my counterparties, but I can provide proof that I have these.
Yeah, specified assets. There's no, so Midnight enables that.
Yeah, builders can come and build those type of solutions. That's something we're looking at. We're speaking to counterparties like that. There's a real need in the digital space.
I mean, that's a huge pain point. Yeah, I would say globally, for people to do business with each other, you need to know if the person is representing themselves accurately.
Exactly. So Midnight opens that door, which leads to better lending, borrowing capabilities, better comfort for the lender, the borrower, around the proof of that collateral. So there's many opportunities.
I mean, I also just think about the venture capital market where, you have VCs that will profess to have a certain size fund, and
yes,
they don't.
Yes.
It's just like in startups need the opportunity to be able to do their due diligence in an appropriate way, right?
Yeah, exactly that. So with Midnight, you can provide that proof. You can triangulate that proof through different sources. Again, depending on how the application, the builders come and bring that together.
Very cool. So let's talk about the sort of market sizing. I think it's an interesting challenge with so much of this emerging technology, because you could say everyone on Earth might need this type of technology. What you had 110,000 folks participate in the token claim. That's a start.
That's
so like, how do you size this market, say, over the next year or two?
Hey listeners, are you ready to amplify your voice in a digital world? Introducing .podcast domains, your gateway to the future of online identity. Whether you're a creator, a company, or just someone with big ideas, .podcast is for you. Own your unique digital identity, connect securely, and explore hundreds of apps with no renewal fees. Don't wait for someone else to claim your name. Secure your .podcast domain today and be part of the next generation of content creation. Visit get.unstoppabledomains.com/podcast to get started. Again, that's get.unstoppabledomains.com/podcast. Your voice, your rules, your identity.
Yeah, so the first thing we've done is said we believe in this technology. We have been building it, designing it over several years. So we've taken our time in terms of building it what we think is in the right manner. We're putting privacy at the core of the technology with the disclosure elements to the contract. Right now, we're actually up to over almost 130,000 claimants because we've been giving away our assets, our token. So people can own a stake in Midnight for free, come and participate in the technology that we're offering. So we're not taking money from VCs. In fact, it's the reverse. We're asking the VC companies to come and claim this so they can present this opportunity to their portfolio companies to come and build some of that unique technology of Midnight. For us, in terms of market sizing, there's a lot of innovation in this space and a lot of ideas. It's about executing. And execution comes from the good technology, good tokenomics, but also finding good, strong partners. And we're not only asking the partners to come and build on us, but we have a strong team at the foundation who have strong business experience, strong Web3 experience as well, who can go and be strong partners for these external developers, these external softwares.
So do you have sort of target and stretch goals for the amount of users on the network within the next couple of years and amount of projects?
Yeah, so our vision is about building a fairer future and enabling that through the technology we have. And we've set ourselves the ambitious target of being the ZK engine across all blockchains. We can provide that service not only to native builders on Midnight, but also extend our services into other blockchains and also to Web2 corporates.
And this is all built on Cardano?
So Midnight itself is a separate L1 to Cardano. It's a separate blockchain. It is actually built using Substrate, so the Polkadot sort of technology into the Ledger technology, the smart contract that enables this special disclosure powers. That is a new novel smart contract designed around TypeScript. Where Cardano comes into it is that the ownership token that gives you access to Midnight is a Cardano native asset. We will use Cardano to help launch the token to get robustness around the security, the validation, and access to market participants. But that ownership token, Knight, which people are now claiming through the Glacier drop, that ownership token gives an emission of a resource called Dust. And Dust is this computational power that gives you permissioned access into Midnight, which allows you to do fully shielded transactions onto Midnight, which you then open up through proofs and through the disclosures on the smart contract.
Very cool. What's your perspective on the degree of decentralization required for a layer one like this? How do you implement such a ambitious plan with decentralized governance?
Yeah, the benefit we have is we're not the first element. So we've seen what has happened through Cardano and its approach to constitution and governance through the different phases Cardano went through. So we've learned from that, but also what Polkadot and other blockchains have gone through. Governance is a evolving process. Blockchain technology itself is new. We are a brand new network with a brand new community. Unlike with any sort of growth plans, take it a child, or take it as a corporate entity, or take it as a blockchain and a community. You don't hand the keys to a Ferrari to a 5-year-old. You don't open up full governance and decentralization day one. It is a journey. And one of the things we will publish in the coming weeks and months before we get to mainnet is our governance plan and roadmap. What are the phases we will go through? How do we launch in a robust way, ensure both technical confidence and upgrades, but also how do we give Knight holders that governance and access right to the Midnight network? How do they tell us what they care about? How do they tell us what they want us to think about strategically in the growth of the network, focus areas, governance areas, and beyond? And that is something we will publish in the coming weeks and months. We want the community to take part, but we recognize it's not something you do instantaneously. It takes time.
Yeah, I mean, I just had a chance to interview the head of Ape Company and Ape DAO dissolved a few months ago, right? And so I think there's just recognition at this point that DAOs are inefficient. And so are you sort of reflecting that reality into how you're doing governance here in terms of the problems with DAOs?
Yeah, so one of the things we think about is how foundations are there to encourage not only the stewardship of the network, the growth of the network, but also the growth of the community, the growth of builders and others coming on to the network. And if the foundation is designed right and hires right, it should be bringing in individuals who believe in that vision, who are delivering for community members, token holders, developers, and for partners, corporates who are coming to build on the network, and then also the users. So
let's take a pause to shout out one of our favorite partners. For tech innovators facing legal challenges, Zubul Lawler is your go-to law firm. They focus on understanding your technology and business model before addressing legal requirements. Specializing in blockchain, AI, VR, AR, quantum computing, and more, Zubul Lawler offers expert guidance in capital raising, IP transactions, M&A, litigation, and compliance. Visit zuberlawler.com, that's ZUBERLAWLER.com, for cutting-edge legal solutions.
How do you hold them accountable? How do you make sure the foundation is using its assets, its resource, it is building the right strategy? That's where the token holder and the DAO, structured correctly, can be a very powerful instrument, almost a supervisory set of eyes on the foundation. We have seen good behavior from foundations where they succeeded in not only growing strong community, but a strong network of developers and applications. And we've seen the opposite. What I want to be in a position is that we at the foundation, the team that we have, is as stewards of encouraging growth of community and builders, and we're held accountable by that, the token holders, through the DAO, viewing us and saying, right, we've agreed the budget, we've agreed your strategy, now go and execute. And if we're not executing, or if we're overspending, or spending frivolously in a way that is not consistent, so they should hold us accountable.
So it's more like the DAO becomes more like they have an observer seat on the board, and they can move into a board seat if they don't like what's going on.
Yes.
And that's essentially what we're talking about here. So it's
essentially, yeah, it's the community has a vote in that. So the community is saying is telling us what they care about, asking us to make sure that's incorporated into the strategy, and if we are not at the foundation, they can hold us accountable. So it is a supervisory, almost a regulatory body where they're directing us, governing us, and then that evolves into a future state where more and more of that sort of decision making goes to token holders, and you get to a decentralized state. But that doesn't happen in a month or a year. It takes time. But what I would hope that we are doing at the foundation is helping that governance roadmap evolve, as much as we're helping the technical roadmap evolve, as much as we're helping the SPO roadmap evolve, but also the partner and community roadmap.
Very nice. So let's talk a little bit about the state of the world and its readiness for midnight.
Yeah.
Obviously we're in a different regulatory environment today, significantly different than a year ago or even 6 months ago. Of course, there is some unrest around the Stablecoin Genius Act legislation, and the market legislation has not sort of been finalized or passed. When you look at the roadblocks to sort of mass adoption for a solution like Midnight, is the regulatory climate a bigger barrier, or is it more around a mindset from a corporate governance perspective and enterprise and government, where they have to get comfortable with this idea of public and private synonymously? Because it seems like it's one of those things where respected, important organizations have to say yes to this type of solution for everyone else to follow. So I'm curious, which one is a bigger barrier? And do you agree with my thesis that you need some big wins for folks to follow along?
Yeah, look, I think there are many barriers. I don't want to pick out one. Ultimately, the way regulation is evolving is a positive sign. Intelligent regulation through education from foundations and industry bodies can help drive that conversation to the right outcome. We've seen that in other industries where bad regulation stifles innovation, results in businesses leaving jurisdictions, moving to others. There's always an arbitrage somewhere in the world. So I think the regulation, certainly the change in the US, is positive. They often are world leaders in this. So other regions, what's happening in the Middle East is also very interesting. What's even happening in Korea and how they're adopting regulation here is also very thoughtful. When you think about zero knowledge and the technology and the proofs, that's also an educational process. The conversations that we at the foundation have had with potential partners, potential builders, has been enlightening. Often when you explain what the technology is and what it opens up, the discussions are almost endless. And when we talk about zero knowledge and that getting a wider sort of adoption and needing big wins, Google have a wallet and they use zero knowledge technology behind that. It's not publicly announced, but that's something if you explore, you'll recognize that you're able to load your driving license onto the wallet and they use zero knowledge technology. So the technology is becoming adopted.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the Aramco
Yes.
data. Not everyone knows about these.
Yeah, exactly. So there are hidden pockets. And I think next week when we're at Token, so we'll be going from Korea into Singapore, we'll make some announcements of potential partnerships there'll be partnerships by then, that the foundation will announce that are coming to Midnight. One partnership that will help in the launch of the Midnight Network with a very large technology company, recognizing the use of zero knowledge and beyond and how it supports. So they sort of want to invest in our sort of structures and launch. But also beyond will also be a second announcement how we're also going to think about future-proofing how zero knowledge and blockchain technology works going forward. So there'll be some interesting announcements there. We are speaking from, small Web3 developers with innovative ideas and solutions. We want to support them in their business ideas and how they use that technology, to some very large corporates and investment banks. They recognize that privacy and rational privacy, that's what we call it at Midnight. It's not a term that we coined, but we use it a lot. Rational privacy is a concept that you have as choice. You can have a private state, a public state, and can disclose different shades of that. Today, we discussed exchange names. We've exposed to everybody who we are speaking in Korea. I've just told them I'm going to Singapore. That's a rational choice I'm making about giving some private information that I hold and making the public aware. And that's the concept of rational privacy that we have in our physical world, our digital world, which we want to introduce into our blockchain world.
Makes a lot of sense, and very ambitious goals forward. By the time our listeners check out this show, you'll be able to sort of see the actual announcement on socials and whatnot, because this will air a few weeks from now. So check out what Midnight has going on there. Just one last question as we wrap up, looking ahead 5 years from now. Do you envision major powerful countries throughout the world adopting this technology? Is the world ready enough for this that we could see countries with a large GDP adopting this technology within 5 years?
Yes, absolutely. Let's go back to just cloud technology and cloud service. If you spoke to a large corporate or government 10 years ago and said, you don't have to own physical servers, you can now rent server space in the cloud from AWS, from Google, from Microsoft, most CTOs have said no. Nowadays, they lease that, and it's become the norm. And I see a future in the next 5 years where governments, large corporations are using zero-knowledge technology on blockchains to exchange sensitive information, to build tokenization solutions, healthcare solutions. In fact, some members of my team will be in another Asian country speaking to their government about a driving ID solution that could be supported at Midnight. I spoke about the example around Korea and how you connect national IDs with education information and other healthcare information potentially. So there are a lot of use cases. We all live in a digital world. The future already is digital. You don't think about the physicalities of it. And data sits in so many different areas. It creates a compliance risk, a security risk. So if you can share that data through proofs in a way that reduces the security risk and the data risk, that is something that brings benefits to individuals, but also saves costs in terms of compliance and regulatory fines and other things. So there is that future, and we see it very much, and that's why we've invested in this technology.
Right on. I said that was my last question, but one follow-up, that comes top of mind is with vibe coding and some of the more sort of infant technology that is very prone to hacks.
Yes.
Are you concerned in terms of setbacks, in terms of major, privacy exposure issues, not due to the core technology of your layer one, but the lack of security, perhaps, that some of the folks that are using your technology are enforcing in terms of the applications they're building?
Yeah, I mean, that's not just unique to the zero-knowledge technology or our blockchain. That is true of any blockchain. Ultimately, security or data is only as good as your weakest link. You left the window open, you left the front door open, the chimney's unlocked, and they come down and get into the house. So ultimately, what we're focused on is around the technology, good audit, good coding hygiene, good audit hygiene, open sourcing that code. We've seen the benefit of open sourcing when more eyes look at things, benefit from that, better documentation, better education. So for us, we're new. Zero knowledge is not new, but our smart contract technology is new. That goes through our DevRel team in terms of education, documentation, communication. And we want more builders, more community to come in, because you get better through numbers, and you achieve excellence through bringing in more people. The Midnight Foundation is a small foundation. There are far more cleverer, more thoughtful, innovative entrepreneurs out there, developers out there, and we want to tap into that audience. We want them to say, hey, we want to come work at Midnight. And we're not tribalist. Our economic model, the tokenomic model, allows blockchain to be consumed as a transaction, as a service. We're not territorial. So whether you're building on Solana, Avalanche, Ether, or other chains, you can consume Midnight's privacy-enabling solutions to build hybrid applications that support. We don't have to be in a world where every blockchain has to do everything. That's not how technology works. That's not how the real world works. So come and build a Midnight and actually extend that into your other services on other chains. And that will only help the code get better, applications get better, and help with some of those security risks you highlight.
Right on. For those that are interested in learning more about Midnight and getting involved in the community, what's the first step you recommend?
Go to midnight.network. That is where there's a lot of information. There's also information about not only how you code, how you your example, dApps, but how you access the community. Look at our social media, whether it's X, LinkedIn, Discord. Come participate. Right now, we're in the middle of the Glacier drop and the claim phase. I'd say time is running short. So by the time this goes out, it may have ended or it may not, depending on the timing. I'd encourage people to go look at midnight.gd. If you're part of the 8 ecosystems who are eligible, you have time to claim. Once that claim window finishes, we're then in a scavenger mine where it's open to everybody else to come and participate, come and claim. Once you have Night, you will have access to the resource, the gas fee that powers those transactions, those applications of Midnight. I would come encourage everybody to look at it, play around with it, participate, come and get an ownership of it. And we're at the foundation here to listen. We're building for the community. We're building for developers. We're building for our partners. I have an amazing team with huge experience, both in Web3 and traditional corporate environments. And we're here to help everybody who wants to come and build on tonight.
That's great. And if people want to follow you on X, what's your handle?
My handle, I keep getting told is a terrible handle, but my handle out there is F_ZK_now.
All right. I don't think it's so bad.
It's okay. It's okay.
There's room for improvement. But there's positive little things. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you.
Wish you the best with the exciting things to come.
Thanks very much. Safe travels. Take care.
We've reached the outer limit at the edge of show for today. Thanks for exploring with us. We have room for more adventurers on our starship, so invite your friends and cool strangers to join our journey. If you're among the hundreds of thousands following us on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or watching us on Myco or YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, rate us, and make an awesome comment too. And don't forget to pass this episode along to a friend or two who would benefit from it. Doubling back to again, recommend checking out myco.io, where you can watch The Edge of Show and earn for your time and attention. That's myco.io. Don't forget to visit theedgeofshow.com. The is part of the domain name, where you can learn more about collaborating with us and also subscribe to the Edge of Weekly newsletter for the latest Web3 news, events, and show drops. In addition, connect with us on all major social platforms by searching for The Edge of Show. Join the exciting conversations happening online. Lastly, be sure to tune in next time for more great Web3 and AI content. Until then, keep pushing the boundaries. Thanks again for hanging out with us today. The views and opinions expressed on The Edge of Show reflect solely those views and opinions of the show host and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. Our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. From time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of these links. Refer to our website, www.edgeofnft.com, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, and privacy policy.